Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Author Spotlight interview. I'm your host, Mike Wolf, and with me today is Avi Leibovic, a nationally recognized Social Security disability attorney, community rabbi, and dynamic public speaker who's helped over 500,000 people navigate the disability system. He's also a TikTok influencer with over 60 million views and the author of a powerful new guide that helps readers win their Social Security disability claims. Avi, welcome to the show.
What a treat to be here. Thank you for having me, and hello to your audience. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a great podcast and a great opportunity to tell everyone about the programs.
Awesome, Avi. So tell us about the book, How to Win Your Disability Claim. So, what inspired you to write this book and why now?
I've been doing disability work for about 30 years now. I started out in California, I moved it over to New York, and I've helped hundreds of thousands of people, as you said, navigate the Social Security disability process. What happened was COVID came along, and that kind of went side by side and coincided with the TikTok phenomena, which so many of you are familiar with. TikTok has really even replaced YouTube, and it's now become a primary source of entertainment for a lot of people. And I started doing these TikToks about Social Security disability law. I wasn't dancing in a bathing suit. I wasn't doing the latest trends. There I was, just talking about Social Security disability. And the response was remarkable because there's millions and millions and millions of disabled individuals who are sitting home, unsure of how to navigate the system and desperately looking for help so that they could go ahead and put food on their table, keep a roof over their head, pay for medications. That's what inspired me to write this book. I started doing tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, tip 4. I got over 5,500 videos now, and I took the best 101 of them and put them in a book.
Wow. So, just tell us real quick, what is your TikTok username so I can put that down below the video?
It's the name of the company, and benefits for all. And
Okay.
benefits for all.
Okay, if you guys are watching this now, I'm going to put, not only am I going to put the link to Avi's book, I'll also put his TikTok and other social media down below so you can check that out. So now you've helped over 450,000 individuals with their claims. What are some of the most common mistakes people make when applying?
I think the most common mistake that people make is really not having an attorney by your side. The reason that I say that is because this is a legal process in its nature. There are laws, there are regulations, there's legal forms, and all of this is new to someone who's not familiar with the system. You wouldn't go to a dentist unless you had a dental problem. You wouldn't go to a mechanic unless you had a car problem, or electrician if you had an electrical problem. The reason that people should contact an attorney is because that is the best way of increasing your chances of getting approved. That would probably be one of the most important things that I could recommend to everybody right now.
All right, that makes sense. So now the book tells you there's 101 tips. What's one tip that surprises your readers the most?
There's a rule that says that you must be disabled for a period of not lasting 12, lasting at least 12 months or more. And I think that the thing that confuses a lot of people is that they have to be disabled for at least 12 months before they apply. That's not the case. The regulations are very clear that are going to last or are expected to last for at least 12 or more months. So if someone gets in a catastrophic accident, if someone is diagnosed, God forbid, with a accelerated cancer or something happens to them traumatic, they don't have to wait 12 months before they can apply. They can apply immediately at any time. And in fact, in some cases, if you're just learning about it now, you can even go retroactive 1 year from your application date to capture all of that time. You don't have to wait 12 months or more.
Now, I imagine going through someone like you, they're going to save themselves a lot of time and headaches of trying, as opposed to trying to do it themselves, right? Have you had a lot of people tell you, "Hey, I tried to do this on my own, and I just couldn't get through it"?
As I said before, the timeline for the Social Security process can be 18 to 24 months. When people are not feeling well, when they're lying in bed, when they're sick, they just don't have the strength to go ahead and do this. They may have brain fog, they may have mental limitations, and they certainly may have physical limitations as well. It isn't just about filling out forms. You have to request medical records, you have to submit medical records, you have to go for a consultative examination with the Social Security doctors, and in many cases, you're going to end up in front of a judge to get this resolved. To go before a judge when you have tens of thousands of dollars at stake without an attorney by your side is just shooting yourself in the foot. It's a silly notion. You need to have an attorney by your side, and if you try to do that by yourself in front of a judge, you're going to pay the price.
Now, if someone was to go by themselves and try to do it themselves and then they fail, is there any kind of second chance opportunity, or have they basically ruined their chance by trying by themselves?
Well, so that's an excellent question. So the Social Security process, as it is right now, is divided up into several different levels. You have the initial application. If that gets denied, you have something called a reconsideration appeal. If that gets denied, you have a hearing with a judge. It then goes to the appeals council, where you can go ahead and have the judge's decision reviewed. And then it goes to federal district court. So if someone goes ahead and tries to do an application and it gets denied, they shouldn't give up. Absolutely not. They should go ahead and they should appeal it. They should go for the reconsideration and then go for the request for hearing with the judge. In fact, I just want to throw out a quick statistic. According to the latest data, the national denial rate is about 70% on all applications. That means 7 out of 10 applications are denied. On the reconsideration level, the denial rate is 85%. 85% of applications are denied. They are weeding out people. Most of these cases are going to be resolved in front of a judge in a full-blown hearing, at least 60 minutes, with a judge, with a vocational or medical expert. It's a full process, but yes, you should not give up and you should keep moving forward with your appeals.
I'm assuming the people without legal representation are considerably or overwhelmingly in the 70% portion, right, correct?
That is correct. You know, when you're filling out these applications by yourself without any assistance, you make very common mistakes. You may list your diagnosis, but you don't accurately describe the symptoms that you have. You may list what's wrong with you, but you don't go ahead and articulate your limitations and your restrictions in terms of your ability to do daily activities, in terms of your ability to function at work or maintain gainful employment, and to go ahead and do this without the help of an attorney who is holding your hand, navigating you, advising you, and guiding you on how to complete these forms, how to go about the process in the most successful and efficient way, you're going to run into some trouble.
Okay. Now, if I'm someone who's just became disabled, I've hit my 12-month mark. So the first thing I would do, you'd recommend, is to read your book, obviously. I've read your book. And now the second thing you're saying is to find legal representation. That's the second thing. And then those two things should make my chances of getting approved exponentially higher, I assume.
There's a lot of books out there on Social Security, but most of them describe just what the program is. They're very difficult to read. They're hard to understand. This book was written with the reader in mind, knowing that the reader is not feeling well, knowing that we're living in 2025 and people just want to hear it in basic, English. They want to hear it and it has to be real. These are real tips. These are real practitioner tips to help improve the chances of a person getting approved. And absolutely, having an attorney increases your odds. Having this book and knowing the ins and outs, the trade secrets, the tips that attorneys use will substantially increase your chances of getting approved.
Now, your book and the attorney will tell people what to do, but let me ask you, are there things they should not do? Are there things they might say or do or write down on an application that could completely destroy their case?
There are things that you should not do. One thing that you should not do is forget to return the forms that they send you. You're going to get an adult function report. You're going to get a work history report. You may get a pain questionnaire. You cannot forget to send those in. Oops, I forgot. That is a very common mistake, and it will result in an automatic denial. That's one thing that people will forget to do. Another thing that people will forget to do is provide all the doctors that they've been seeing and all the hospitals that they've had to go to, either for emergency visits or for medical procedures. I always say all the time on TikTok, and I say it to all my clients, medical records, medical records, medical records. Unless you have medical records, you're not going to win your case. I'm only as good as the medical records. So unless you have those medical records and unless you submit them timely together with the forms, That's a very common mistake that people make, which result in denials.
I assume if you leave out medical records or treatments you've had, you could lower the amount of disability that you earn, the total you receive, right?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. There is a distinction between the Veterans Administration disability payments and the Social Security Administration disability payments. In the VA, they could find you partially disabled, 20% disabled, 45% disabled, 65% disabled, or 100% disabled, whatever the number is. They can break it down into pieces, and your payout is determined on what percentage you're found disabled. In Social Security, on the other hand, you're either 100% disabled or you're not disabled. And the way that they determine how much are you going to get paid on the Social Security Disability Insurance Program, the SSDI program, is it's really all based on how much you earned over the course of your career and how much you've paid into the system. So if a person had a job where they weren't paying that much into the system, let's say they were making minimum wage, which is a very respectable, earning in certain parts of the country, the amount that they paid in the system is not going to be all that much. But on the other hand, if you had a job where you were making a significant amount more money, a substantial job where you were a professional or a successful business person, and you've paid into the system over the years, tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your career, that's going to result in a much higher payout to you. But not having the medical records, to go back to your initial question, it doesn't affect how much you're going to be paid or not going to be paid. It's going to affect whether you get approved or whether you don't get approved at all. So it'll be 0% or 100%.
This may be an ignorant question, so excuse me. So, what if you were disabled early on, like at age 20, and you never held a job that paid into Social Security?
That's a terrific job. That's a terrific question. The way that works is there's something called the Disabled Adult Child Program. Social Security, in order to qualify for SSDI, generally requires you to have 40 active work credits. What a work credit is that every time you get paid on payroll, it says state and federal taxes, and it says Social Security. A lot of people think that Social Security tax payment that you make is only for your retirement benefits. It's not. It's for your retirement benefits and for disability benefits in case you get injured or hurt and can't work for at least 12 months or more. Having said that, going back to your question, if you're 20 or 22 or 21 years old, Social Security doesn't expect you to have 40 active credits because you needed to work 5 of the last 10 years in order to at least have 40 active credits. So they have special programs that are designed for disabled adult children that you can apply to where you don't need the 40 active credits.
That makes sense. All right, let's move on from your book and a little bit more about you and your background. You're not only a disability law expert, you're also a rabbi, social activist, TikToker, public speaker. I mean, how do you balance all these roles?
Very delicately. It's not easy. I wouldn't say that I went ahead and did all of them at once. It's been a gradual buildup over time. I've only became a TikToker in the last 5 years. I have been doing Social Security for about 30 years. The rabbi position, the social activist, started right after high school, going into college, where I was giving classes and I was getting involved in events in law school and in college that were of importance to the student body. I always say, how do I juggle them all? There's a very famous rabbi scholar, just to go to this, who they asked him, how are you able to be an expert in this area of law and in this area of the Torah and in this area of Talmud, all the different, how are you able to be an expert in all these different things at once? And his response was, whenever I'm focusing on at that moment, I give 100% of my time. I give 100% of my time. It's true we live in a society now where there's a lot of multitasking. I can go to my Windows browser and open up 100 different tabs and windows. But what happens when you open up 100 tabs? It's going to freeze up, it's going to glitch, and you're going to have a problem. You're going to have to reboot.
Yeah.
What I try to do, if I'm doing Social Security and I'm talking to a client, I am 100% zoned in on the Social Security. If I'm standing in front of an audience and I'm giving a sermon, or I'm involved in some social activity that's of importance to the community, or if I'm TikToking, I try to give 100% when I'm involved in that project at the time, and that's really how I balance it. And often they overlap. There's a lot of social work stuff that goes into the TikToking, and there's a lot of the social work stuff that goes into the disability. There's a thread that runs through them all, but I really try to give 100% when I'm focused on each thing at a time.
I love that analogy. I think in the browser of our lives, a lot of us have too many tabs open. So
That's
that's
right.
definitely a good analogy. I think I can close a few tabs myself.
That's
Um,
right.
so what originally drew you to the field of Social Security disability law?
When I was in elementary school, it actually started in California, in Los Angeles. There's a hospital there called Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And during the holiday times, they would recruit some of the local students to go around during the holiday times and greet the patients by bedside, go into them, have them make a blessing over something that's relevant to the holiday, whatever it is. And I have to tell you, since that young age, going to the bedside of someone who's sick and having them literally cry in front of you and say, "I'm so happy that you came to visit me. I'm so happy that you're here. You made my day." That left a profound impact on me. And that event has navigated me not just through elementary school, I continue to do it in high school. In college, I used to go vet and I used to walk to nursing homes and things like that and get involved again with the elder community. In law school, I worked for legal aid for the elderly. I've always been involved with people who are sick, people who are in need, and people who have their hands stretched out and saying, "I need a little bit of help." And that's really how I got involved in the disability law. I was out in California for 25 years of my career. The firm that I worked at worked with about 150 different hospitals and health networks. And we were in the emergency rooms, helping people in the emergency rooms who needed assistance with qualifying either for the Medi-Cal, which is the Medicaid program, or Social Security disability benefits or veterans benefits. My whole career has always been about working with people who need help, and it just naturally gravitated to the disability law.
All right, speaking of California, what made you decide to make the transition to New York? How did that affect your outreach and your mission?
That's a great question. Um, I have 7 kids. I have triplets. I know I have triplet girls. Right, unbelievable. I went from 0 to 3 in the blink of an eye. So I have triplet girls, and then I have another girl. I have 4 girls and 3 boys, and they're all young adults at this stage, and they started going to colleges out on the East Coast.
Mhm.
And my wife and I really made a decision that was like, we're only seeing the kids on 4th of July and on the holiday vacations, and that just really wasn't sitting well with us. We wanted to keep the family together, so we packed up and we headed out east to be near our children who were in school. Housing, just to be honest, housing in California is also very, very, very expensive. I had a home, but it goes back to my children again. Would they be able to afford a home? Were they going to move out of state? New York has a lot of different communities that young married couples can still afford homes, and it made a lot of sense. How did that affect my business? Well, I opened up shop again in 2019. I started doing disability law, and then COVID hit, and everything was closed for 2 years. The Social Security offices were lock and key closed. The world knows what happened during COVID. It was a disaster on so many different levels, and it was a disaster in the disability industry. But moving to New York, and during COVID, they started shifting over to Social Security started shifting over to what they call Zoom hearings or video hearings. And all the forms in every state are the same, all the regulations in every state are the same, all of the laws in every state are the same. This is a federal program, this is not a state program. So I started through the TikToking, providing national coverage. And the home base is New York right now, but I'm servicing every state in the country right now through social media. It's just been unbelievable how the viral effect of these videos they're just fire. And now I'm
So
servicing.
COVID kind of, not that COVID actually was a blessing, but the situation became a blessing that you can now work remotely and pretty much work with anybody anywhere. And I'm assuming when the offices were closed during COVID, when they reopened, there must have been a backlog of cases that you were able to help with.
You bring up a very good point. The timeline on a Social Security case, I think I mentioned it earlier, can be 18 to 24 months. The application section, the application process can take 8 to 10 months. The reconsideration process can take 8 to 10 months. The hearing process can take 8 to 10 months. And these stack on top of each other. So for someone who's sick, someone who needs help, the process is very long. It's not like unemployment benefits where you just go ahead and apply and you get an answer in a couple days. This is a very slow and very prolonged process. COVID just added that much more to the process. There were more people who had not just long haul COVID, but there were so many people who just needed the help. Social Security got backed up, everything got backed up, and the need for an attorney to try to expedite things, the need for an attorney to try to get in there into the cracks of the Social Security system to move things forward was just that much greater. And I'm happy I could serve those needs.
Now, if someone was disabled during COVID and unable to get a hold of the offices or make a claim, were they able to make claims that were retroactive after they opened up?
That's a very good question. The laws as they're stated right now is there's actually, just to clarify for the listeners at home, there's primarily two different Social Security programs that people may be eligible for when we're talking about disability benefits. There's SSI and there's SSDI. Now, people use the phrase disability benefits, disability benefits, disability benefits interchangeably, but they really are two different programs. SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is a needs-based program. It's for people who have, if you're single, you can't have more than 2,000 in the bank. If you're married, you can't have more than 3,000 in the bank. You don't have work credits because you haven't worked, and the benefit amount that you get is very small, and there's no retroactive timeline that you can go back for. SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, is the more robust program, is the program that people who have worked and paid in the system and who will be eligible for a bigger check and who will be eligible for retroactive benefits up for a year can apply for. I like to describe it to some of my clients and for some of the listeners at home. You know, I used to go to the carnival and used to play the games at the carnival.
Yeah.
And they're whether you're throwing the darts at the balloon or whether you're doing the ring toss or whatever you're doing, there's always the small little teddy bear, which is the consolation prize, and then there's the big giant teddy bear if you're the winner chicken dinner, right?
Yeah.
SSI, I wouldn't say it's the consolation prize, but it's the smaller program for people who haven't paid into the system and haven't gotten credits. It's the smaller teddy bear. SSDI is, yeah, for people who've paid into the system all these years. It's the big teddy bear. You get Medicare after 24 months from your entitlement date. You get money for your children under 18 who are still living at home. Those are called auxiliary benefits. To your question, you can go retroactive 1 year from your application date. There's a lot more benefits with SSDI as opposed to SSI. So in terms of retroactive benefits, there is no retroactive benefits for SSI past the application date, but for SSDI, you can go 1 year before the application date.
So I can hear the passion in your voice when you're speaking about this. Do you travel and do speaking events and talk about this on different stages across the country?
I have been invited over the course of my career to give workshops, not just on Social Security disability law, but on either Jewish subjects, character building, family dynamics. I've spoken on a range of subjects across the country. So the short answer to that question is yes. I am a very passionate speaker. Here I have to stay in front of the mic. But when I'm not in front of a mic, I'm in front of that podium and I'm moving around the room and I'm engaging the audience. I'm known for, being charismatic. I mean, I think that that's been a lot of my success with the TikToks. You have to remember, Social Security disability insurance is a very dry subject. It's a very boring subject. How am I engaging all these people? Well, I got to keep it fun and I got to keep it exciting and I got to clap my hands and I got to be animated. And by doing those, by providing that passion into every one of my TikToks or into my speeches, yeah, I'd like to think that's how I'm engaging people. They're responding, they're enjoying.
I'm envious. My biggest fear is public speaking. I'm an actor. I've had speaking lines opposite directly across Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, but I could not get up on. I don't mind if there's a director and a crew and gaffer. They're not paying attention to me, but I could not get up on stage in front of 20 people and speak. I just don't, and that's not my thing. I don't mind acting, but I'm envious that you can get up on stage and do that.
I think you're doing a great job.
Well,
I
now
think,
it's just me and you. Obviously, that's
all right.
fine. There's nobody watching as far as I know right now until we air this. Um,
Okay.
Before I let you go, I want to make sure that everyone has the links to your book. So the links to buy Avi's book are down below here. I'm also going to put his TikTok link down below. He's got over 60 million views, so they're definitely worth watching. How often are you doing TikToks now?
You know, I found that in order to be a successful TikToker, and you'll see this amongst other successful TikTokers, you really have to be posting somewhere between 8 and 12 videos a day. People don't realize the amount of time that you
Wow.
can't, if you just post one video a day. I mean, look, if you get really big and you have, one of some of the big stars out there, yeah, you can post one video a day because you're a superstar already.
Yeah.
People are sending you campaigns and advertisements, and they want you to sponsor their products or whatever it is. But if you're a regular TikToker or a regular influencer, I'm making about, yeah, 8 to 10 to 12 videos a day, and it's content is it's not so much that it becomes difficult to figure out. I mean, how much is there to talk about Social Security disability law? But what I've done in order to engage the people is I don't just give dry tips. I get a little bit more passionate. I get a little bit more personal. I get a little bit more intimate. People always call, and I'll give you an example. People always come to me and they always say to me, should I apply for benefits? Should I apply for benefits? You're the lawyer. Should I apply for benefits? You know what I tell them? I said, don't ask me if you should apply for benefits. I'm not the one to make the decision for you if you should get benefits. I said, this is a process that you have to discuss first with your doctor. You have to discuss with your family. And most importantly, when I say get intimate, is you have to discuss it with you yourself. You have to go to the doctor, not me. You have to get in the MRI machine, not me. You got to sit for the labs and the procedures. You got to back this up. They're not giving out free benefits on the street corner. And there's very little fraud and waste, in spite of what everyone says in the media. It is difficult to get Social Security disability benefits. They are not just giving it out. You have to go and sit there. So what I do is I really use some of my public speaking and my motivational speaking, I think, to get to the heart of people. When they're sitting at home, I could tell them dry facts and spit out data and tell them boring rules and regulations, but that's not what people want to hear. They need a pep talk to understand that, like, you can do it. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward. I always give the analogy, the Rocky Balboa scene at the end of Rocky 1. What does he do when he wins the title? He sticks his hands up in the sky and he says, "Yo, Adrian, we did it! We did it!" And I tell people all the time, by the time this journey is done, I want nothing more than for you to raise your hand in your kitchen, if you're able to raise your hands over your head, but figuratively, of course, to raise your hands over your head and say, Attorney Avi, or whoever my client is, Jane, John, Mary, Charlie, we did it. It took 18 to 22 months, 24 months. We had to go through the forms. We had to go through the examinations. We had to go through the medical procedures. We had to go stand before a judge for a 60-minute hearing. We did it. And now you're going to get the benefits for the rest of your life, the benefits that you paid for, the benefits that you deserve. And, the name Benefits for All is a play on the words from the Pledge of Allegiance with liberty and justice for all. I took the words and justice for all and I switched it around from instead of justice for all, it says and benefits for all. Because the concept of justice is really about due process. It's about making sure you're heard and you have your day in court. And I think when we're saying and benefits for all, yeah, you deserve that day in court. You paid for these benefits. And you paid for them so that they can be there for you when you need them most. And I'm happy that I can play a role in helping thousands of people, tens of thousands of people over my career, hundreds of thousands of people. And what inspires me to keep doing it is on a daily basis, I have people who call me up crying and telling me that my services and my assistance has changed their life. They had their backs to the wall. They hadn't worked in 18 months because of their disabilities. They didn't know how they were going to put food on the table. They didn't know how they were going to pay their rent. They didn't know how they were going to get medication. And they didn't know where to turn. And here I am showing up on TikTok, crazy attorney Avi, snapping my fingers, telling everyone, let's do this. And I always say, I want to make you a winner, winner chicken dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That I want to make you a winner, winner chicken dinner. I want you to get approved, and we're going to do it together. I'm not going to abandon you. We're going to fight till the end. I'm in it to win it. And it's been a journey. I never thought it would get to the point where I would write a book about it. I never thought that my TikTok tips would turn into something larger than life on TikTok. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you very much. And I'm always available to help the community and be of service to the community in any way that I can.
All right, folks, you heard it. If you're watching this now and you have questions about Social Security disability law, you want to watch Avi's TikTok, I'm going to have the link down below. You want to buy his book, I'm going to have the link down below. Avi, you've obviously been a blessing to many people. We appreciate having you on the show here on Author Spotlight. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Keep doing the great work that you're doing. I really do appreciate it.
See
Thank
you,
you.
Avi.